All right, we'll see how this action works. My internet is just being so dodgy. I'm sorry. It's highly problematic, but we're going to try this and see if it will work today. So thank you everybody for the last being here for the last live Q&A of June. So we're trying this each Wednesday in June, and welcome Grady. Thanks for being here. And so getting this started. So I hope that folks have had learned a lot and participated. So thanks everybody who showed up live and watched the replays and been here for the live Q&A. So thank you very much. Hello, Elise. Great to see you. So it has been really good. So we've had a lot. I don't think the time probably works as best as it could. We've had not many people show up live, but we've had a lot of people watch the replays. So that is a very good thing. So we'll have to see what works best for everybody. So if you guys have better suggestions as to what time works, just use either the chat here or comments. Would appreciate to get everybody's feedback on that. So kind of what I would like to do going forward is turn this into have like 15-20 minutes of some sort of educational thing, and then have a final Q&A kind of thing at the end. And so I not exactly sure what everybody wants and thinks would work best for that, but I am very open to any thoughts and opinions. And as we get toward the end of summer, we'll pull that back through again when I get back from vacation and all of that jazz. So as always, put your chat questions in the chat, so I'll be able to answer those if you've got any. Grady, how are your native plants that you planted doing? Have they fully pulled out of their stress from getting from transplant stress, or how are they doing? And Elise, I saw this morning you have a ton of flowers blooming right now. That's awesome. You got a lot more than I do. Yeah, my garden is, should do a video tour of the garden, but my garden's way behind. I started it back, hey Matt, started it after session was done, so we were behind schedule on all of those things. And then the heat came and the dry came, so everything's just kind of sitting. So we'll see what happens with all that. I've been giving fish emulsion fertilizer every week here to try and help them get a little bit of boost, and so we'll see what goes on with it. So 1 month into the garden, plants grow. The garden is so much more full even 1 month in. Yeah, it's amazing how, especially when you get the heat, if the soil's right, if you get water on things, it is just amazing how much they take off. And obviously lose a certain percentage of them, but it's a good thing. And then my friend Matt Barron is on here as well, and he showed me the other day his garden, and it's all brand new and it's amazing. It's going really, really well. He has a deer enclosure to keep the deer out, and lots of good stuff. So awesome. All right, well, I'll get into a couple things here before we get too far in. So let me share screen. Make sure this works this time. There's a lag in the screen being able to be shared, so let me wait a second, because last time I tried and I pushed the button way too many times and it just kept popping up. There are a few things I wanted to share with everybody that is going on right now. Come on, you can do it. I'm not sure why it's not coming up, but There we go. All right. It's a little crazy there, but here we go. So, a couple of things I want to go. So, Japanese beetles. So, a lot of folks are starting to see Japanese beetles again. They're a little later this year, which is very, very interesting to me. But Japanese beetles. So, with Japanese beetles, just want to talk. So, Japanese beetles, you'll see them pretty much on every plant. There are lots and lots of plants. Japanese beetles just destroy. So, basil, a lot of fruit trees, raspberries, roses. I absolutely love roses, grapevines, linden trees, just a bunch of different trees that Japanese beetles just absolutely love. And so when Japanese beetles go, they make these holes. And so they, in between all the veins, they just eat the leaves. And so with them, you'll see, it'll look like a skeleton. So it's called skeletonizing. And so you'll see these leaves that have just all these holes through them, and just the veins of the leaves are left on the plant. And so Japanese beetles are actually pretty, I think. And so they have a shiny green and bronzy kind of color, I guess is the best way to look at it. And they've been around for a while, and they've been spreading. So when I first started in landscape in the early 2000s, we lived in Chicago and had grown up in Iowa. We didn't have Japanese beetles in Iowa. And so in Chicago, Japanese beetles were very, very prevalent. And so this time when I was a baby landscape horticulture kid, was out standing under a tree and was wearing a white, super cool, white linen shirt. And for work, and I was talking to a client, and then all of a sudden I just like got bombarded and had just these beetles were attacking me. I had no idea what they were. I'd never seen them before. And they were just running into my head, had hair back then. And Japanese beetles are attracted to white. And so I was standing under a linden tree that had been completely defoliated from Japanese beetles. And then they just started coming after me. And so they were hitting me all over, and it was freaky. I did not like it one bit. And so there's not really been any sort of control for Japanese beetles other than just spraying them. And so to spray them, you have to spray to kill them. And this is not necessary. I do not advocate this at all. But to get Japanese beetles, the only real way you can do that as the adults is to spray them and just spray the tree, and that kills everything. And so that happened a lot. I don't think it happens nearly as much as it did before, but since that time, the Japanese beetles have moved through and are now in Minnesota. So the southern half of Minnesota, and then most of Iowa has Japanese beetles. Most of Wisconsin has Japanese beetles. So we are seeing them a bunch here. But this little dude that you can see right here looks like a normal fly. And it's called a winsome fly. And it is a natural predator of Japanese beetle. And they're really, really awesome. So if you are in your garden, what I do is I go out every morning once Japanese beetles are around with a tub of just like a butter dish or a Tupperware of water. And then I have a little apple tree that they really like. And so it's a small tree. So I kind of set the Tupperware underneath, and Japanese beetles are dumb with a capital D. And you just kind of tip them over and shake it a little bit, and they fall into the water. And then I pluck everybody off and toss them in the water, and they can't get out of the water. And then I get this whole big rolling ball of Japanese beetles. And I put all of them in there, and I feed them with the chickens, except for the ones with, I'm pointing to my screen, but except for the ones like this one with a white dot on them. And what that white dot is the egg of the winsome fly. And so the winsome fly has one generation a year, and it takes and it lays an egg on the upper thorax, or a couple different eggs on the upper thorax. So you can see one here of the Japanese beetle. And so what happens is, and they usually lay them on the female Japanese beetle. So you can see here they're getting it on, and the female is pretty much stuck. And so the winsome fly comes in while they're mating, and Japanese beetles just do it all the time. It's insane. And so they lay an egg on the upper thorax of the Japanese beetle. And what that does is that egg hatches and it burrows into the Japanese beetle, and it forces the Japanese beetle to go to the ground and dig into a hole. And so it takes the larvae of the winsome fly with the Japanese beetle down into the ground. And so it then the larvae eats the Japanese beetle, it overwinters, comes out the next year. And so it has a life cycle that coincides with the Japanese beetle. And so anytime you see one of these white dots on a Japanese beetle, do not kill it, because that is creating more winsome flies. And so we need to get a balance in the population so Japanese beetles aren't so terrible. So let me go back to this crazy screen here. And okay, thanks, man. Picked about 50 off my pear trees yesterday. Yeah, they are terrible, and they're just going to get worse. So just make sure to watch for winsome fly eggs and let those ones live. And so Japanese beetles, another Japanese beetle control that is available, has proven that they thought it was like a miracle cure-all for a while, but it has proven to not work really well. But the grubs, so if you have a lot of lawn die-off or things like that, one of the best ways to keep Japanese beetles out of your gardens and everything is to not have great lawns, because Japanese beetles love lawns that have are really well irrigated and have lots of nitrogen, because that means that there's a lot of things for the grubs to eat underground. And so their life cycle, they lay eggs in the ground this time of year, and the grubs will hatch, and they will be mobile, and they'll be moving around and doing their thing all through fall, and then they overwinter, and then they're basically stationary all spring. And so they're really difficult to kill in the spring. So fall is the time. There's a bacteria that specifically goes after grubs, and so it gets in the ground, you water it in, and the grubs eat the bacteria invades the grub dies, and it just spreads more of that bacteria around. But it's a Bacterius thunbergiensis, I believe is what it's called, and it has proven to not overwinter well in upper Midwest winters, and so it's not as good of a control as people thought it was. So we just need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to preserve and keep as many of the winsome flies. So let me know if you have any questions about that, and that is good. Next thing is air conditioners. Make sure, since it's warm and most people are using their air conditioners, that you clean out a 2-foot path around your air conditioner. So there are, it needs to, in order to have proper airflow and run as efficiently as possible. This is my ancient air conditioner that gets used probably 3 times a year. And so it is, you need to make sure that you're having good airflow to the air conditioner so that you don't have, and this is before, here's the after for that. And so it really reduces the efficiency if you've got plants and things that are around your air conditioner, you don't allow for proper airflow. So that's a thing there. And so I'm not going to go back to the screen because it freaks me out when it has all the pieces there. I'll have to do this better in the future, but with that, so make sure to enter any questions you've got just about plants, about landscape, drought, what other things are topics right now, trees, garden, food gardening, those kinds of things, pruning tomatoes, that kind of stuff are things that people have questions about right now. So this is, so for my travels the last week or two, these are from a linden tree. And so lindens are blooming right now. So some of them, depending on the variety, they're done blooming. But if you walk, Katie and I went for a walk the other night, and it was, if folks that are familiar with Shakopee, if you are, through Lions Park, and there are a bunch of big linden trees there, basswood trees, and they're blooming right now, and they just have a gorgeous, like really soft, perfumey scent, and they're really, really great. And the flowers are tiny and very nondescript. I should take a couple pictures of them, but these are what are called bracts, and so they are modified leaf tissue. And so lindens, they have these bracts, B-R-A-C-H-T, that kind of go around, they stick out, and then the leaf, the flower, blooms right in the center of them. So it's on a little stem. and the flower blooms in the center of them. And they're very odd, and you don't see them on many other things, but they're there, and they don't help to like uh, spread seeds. They don't have any really great purpose other than being annoying landscape wise. And so they are thought to protect the seeds is one of the possible ways why it's evolved this way, but nobody really knows exactly why and what use they have. But so if you see like dead fellows all around like this, these are the bracts of the linden trees. And so there's a big handful of it right there, focus on the wrong spot. But this is what they look like. They look like little feathers, but they don't disperse seeds. They don't do anything like that. And so that's what that mess is that you are seeing in places. So that's there. I also wanted to talk a little bit about black walnuts. And so black walnuts are native trees, the upper Midwest, and they are awesome. I love, love, love black walnuts. You can see the black walnuts that are starting to form the nuts there. And so they are really cool plants. This is the leaf. And so this is a compound leaf. And so just a little horticultural nerdiness. So this is, as you can see here, all these are called leaflets. And this, from starting at the stem all the way down, is one entire leaf together. And so this is a compound leaf that, so you see this in like honey locusts and other things like that. And so this is just one big leaf. And the one thing that does really well is it helps for shade and energy efficiency. And so Kentucky coffee tree has one of the biggest leaves that are similar to this as well. And so what happens here is that they have a ton of tree canopy for shade for the summer. So making sure that summer is you've got a lot of shade under those trees, but then after that they lose those giant leaves, and so they're very sparsely what's the best word, branched. So they don't have a ton of branches on there because they have to have room for all the leaves, which makes it so that there's a lot more light that can get through in the winter, and it can help give light to your house. And so those are really good things about black walnuts. But the other thing about it is there's a thing called juglans. So juglans is Juglans. So juglans toxicity. And juglans is a chemical that the black walnuts and folks in the black walnut family release, and they kill off and don't allow it to grow a whole variety of plants. So it's a defense mechanism. And to me, these kinds of things are fascinating. But tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, anything in those families and some others, you just won't be able to grow them anywhere near a black walnut. So if you're struggling to grow certain types of things, like I have a good friend who, she has a giant black walnut tree in her house, and anywhere on the lot, she just can't grow tomatoes in the ground. So she's got it far enough away from the tree now and growing them in pots that she's having success with tomatoes. So it's an interesting thing. So that's juglans toxicity there. Then I want to talk a little bit about nativars is the kind of term that has been put up here. So this is a echinacea, so purple coneflower. And so purple coneflower is a native prairie plant. It's wonderful, does a lot of really great things, from housing stem boring bees and things overwintering there. It has lots of seeds for birds and other folks. It supports a lot of different caterpillars and those. And but this is a variety that has been cultivated. And so it's a native plant that has been cultivated and selected and changed quite a bit, so that it has a lot of different varieties of the native plant. And so, so like there's a echinacea, purple coneflower, Kim's knee high is one that I used a lot on different things. And so when you ever buy a cultivar of a plant, so if it's a plant that has a name after it, basically, so if it has, so Echinacea Kim's knee high, or Rudbeckia Goldstern, or that kind of thing, black-eyed Susans, Liatris cobalt, those are all things that are not grown from seed. And so they're the exact same plant. And so if you plant 10 of them, they are going to have the exact same characteristics, the exact same. So it's great for uniformity. It's great for highly aesthetic gardens and things like that, but it's not natural. And so what happens is that as cultivars are done, so now you go to the garden center and there are dozens and dozens of different kinds of varieties of purple coneflower. And though some of them have been changed so much, they've got like 3 or 4 different layers of petals, and they have different kinds of things. Black-eyed Susans are the same way, changing the colors of them and those kinds of things. So what happens when you do that is that insects and the birds and things that have evolved to coexist and rely on those plants, a lot of times they can't recognize them. And so like this purple coneflower is pretty close to what a coneflower looks like. So this one is mostly fine without any issues. But the other ones that are very different from that, make sure to stay away from those that stray from what you know as the native variety of a coneflower or any native plants that you've got. And so if you want to have a more curated, aesthetically uniform, formal type garden on things, then that's the way to go to it. Just make sure that you are getting something that looks close to what the native form of the plant is, and that you aren't straying too far from that, because it's been proven that a lot of times it changes like how the pollen and the nectar is located in the plant as well, so that the bees and the other friends can't get at that pollen and nectar. So just stay as close to the native plant as you possibly can. Let's skip that one for now. And then, so this is Asclepias. This is a butterfly weed. It's one of my favorites. It's in bloom right now. So if you're seeing all that bright orange around, that is Asclepias. And then this is lead plant. This is a plant that we should be growing more of. It's great. It's native. And it's got a really, really wonderful purple. It can get a little aggressive, but it's pretty easy to control through there. So those are all my things. Stop the screen sharing so we don't go crazy. Now I'll answer questions. So well done, Grady. That's a really great ratio. 95 planted and only lost 1. That's a very good thing. Matt, how did the milky spore work for you? Do you think it helped or not? Because it has proven to not do great. Lead plant, LEAD is the lead plant. And Grady, you are absolutely right. There are a ton of native plants, and go to Native Plant Nursery. Prairie Moon is wonderful. There are a lot of really great. It's awesome to have so many through here. Katie, thanks for joining. Sorry I missed that earlier if you've been on for a little while. But there are a lot of really great native plants. And so now is the time. So as we go forward into the next few months, we're going to be talking a lot about design and native plants and how to make sure to use them correctly in your landscape, blooming throughout the season and those kinds of things. So we're going to be heading toward that kind of stuff here very, very soon in Minnesota Gardening, especially for the Minnesota Gardening Club members. We're going to be doing a lot in the Minnesota Gardening Club that folks can join, just $10 a month. And just go to minnesotagardeningclub.com, or if you're on the desktop version, if you're on your phone, just go to the menu and you can click on Minnesota Gardening Club and you can join there. So Matt, milky spore works on grubs in my yard, but they don't stay put, so it would have to mean everybody has to do it. Yeah, you are exactly correct. It just reduces the population. It won't, unless everybody does it, it won't kill them off. But you also have to make sure that you know that with milky spore, when you put that down, it's not just killing Japanese beetle grubs. It's killing all of the lightning bugs. Lightning bugs are grub form, and so milky spore and BT is killing all the lightning bug grubs. It's killing all the June bug grubs. It's killing anything that has a larval stage in the ground. And so it is not just killing Japanese beetles. And so that's why I wouldn't advocate using it too much. So it kills off a lot of things. Yeah, exactly. You are a murderer, Matt. Well done. All right, so we've got a couple minutes here. Does anybody have questions that you have about things? There's just learning hour for stuff. I've had a lot of questions lately about watering and drought and that kind of thing. It's luckily everybody, many folks in upper Midwest and Minnesota got the rains last weekend. We here in Shakopee were missing out on all of them. It was obnoxious. It would just right around us, and we had missed out on a lot of the rains. And so I'm glad that we got some. I think we probably got 3/4 of an inch or so, and hoping to get more here soon. And the weather looks to be in pretty good shape to not be super hot over the next few weeks or so. So the garden planting topic, thanks for the question, Grady, is that so I am so two things. One is that in a couple weeks here, I'm going to go on vacation. We're going to be gone for 3 weeks and going to go to Maine. And so we're doing a road trip out to Maine. And so I will have programmed into Minnesota Gardening Club each week, along with podcasts about native plants. And so just the basics of native plant design and how to do that. So list of things that are so spring blooming plants. So you want to kind of the basics are you want to make sure to have multiple plants blooming throughout each season so that everybody has a chance to get what they need from the native plants. And so going through and making lists of different plants that bloom in the spring, different plants that bloom in the summer, different plants that bloom in the fall, as well as grasses and that are really important to make sure that everything works together as one cohesive ecosystem. And so we're going to talk about that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about prepping soil and those pieces. So that's the plan for working through that. And then currently recording, I'm going to go back in the fall. So the goal is September 1st to do a season of lawns. And so we're going to have a season on lawns, and not just like standard lawns, but how you can take and transition lawns into native plants, depending on your uses on things, best practices for if you want to have a standard Kentucky bluegrass lawn, like how you can make sure to reduce the inputs and fertilizers and chemicals and water use on those kinds of things. The second is with transitioning over to native plants and bee lawns and those kinds of things. So we've got a whole season of the Minnesota Gardening Podcast that will be on that. And the hope is to release that all at once on September 1st. And so we'll see where we end up on that exactly, because September is the time to deal with any lawn issues that people have. So we're there. Anything, Elise asked, anything about early blooms? I need something between my daffodils and everything else. So yes, that is one of the most critical times for because we have, so if you think about woods and if you think about prairies, well, especially woods, I guess is the best example. Like there's the ephemeral blooms that happen early spring, and the trilliums and all those kinds of friends that are very early spring, and our pollinators and bees rely on those for sustenance. And so those are really important, but a lot of those, especially in our suburban landscape, a lot of those plants have been completely removed. And so we don't have any of those anymore. So we'll absolutely be talking about that early spring type thing. So we will absolutely be covering that. I haven't worked out all the details as to how we're going to do it, but we will definitely be covering it. All right, friends. Thank you thank you to my Wi-Fi, my internet for working. That is a beautiful thing that it came through. So hopefully it wasn't too dodgy for everybody on here. And I see that Katie is typing, so I'll wait to see that come through. We have some Canada anemones, and they are cute early blooms. Yeah, those are great. Anemones, they're a great spring anemones and great fall anemones. And so those are all awesome. And you got pasque-flower, you got a lot of gingers, and a lot of things that bloom in the spring are also not super showy as well. So a lot of them are like green and white and that kind of thing. So we will cover all of that. So I'm not going to be doing another live for a little while. So would love for your feedback as to what time a live would work best for everybody, where it can go, and what that is. So we'll be doing that after I get back. We'll be trying to start that back up after I get back from vacation, and would love your feedback. So thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate it. I think that it has gone really well in June, and so we'll keep working on finding things that do well for everybody here and roll with it from there. So with that, have a great rest of your day, and if you need anything, just let me know. So thanks. And oh, last thing, so Minnesota Gardening Club, if you're not a member of Minnesota Gardening Club, please join. We need more folks in there to help big conversations and have questions and things answered through there. And then secondly, if you have questions or there's anything else you need, you can just post it on Minnesota Gardening is open, so you can put them on there, and I will always be answering questions and helping folks out there as we go. So have a great rest of your day. Thanks, friends. Love you.